But an ongoing theme, and it is constantly being debated, buying Australian, whether you should buy Australian. We've got the debate at the moment about the car industry and the extent to which we should support the car industry. And then there's a small anecdote which I shared with you a few days ago, where we bought some Dick Smith product. And it was more expensive, and I've spoken to Dick Smith about this before. He really has a very tiny proportion of the market. He's trying to get in there. And we have kept buying it simply because, yes, it may be Australian, but it's also in the view at home, the person that buys this stuff, that it's better. And so I've been wanting to talk to a man who is in a position where he is asking us to buy Australian. He's also arguing that the product is better, and he's doing a pretty good job. Peter Kelly had a very long career with Coca-Cola Amatil in some very senior positions, and he took over SPC Ardmona, the Shepparton plant. It's a huge operation, and it really is an iconic Australian brand. You may have seen the advertising in recent times as SPC Ardmona has been urging us to buy Australian. They've had success, for instance, back in September. They announced a big deal with Woolworths, where their select brands are now sourced entirely via SPC Ardmona with Australian-grown product. They've also got Australian-grown baked beans, for instance, which they've been sourcing from around the country. So how hard is it in the environment where people can drop into this country stuff that is very competitive? In some cases it's being dumped, and there are laws in relation to that. There have been inquiries. It's a big job. Peter Kelly is the Managing Director of SPC Ardmona. He joins us now. Mr. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Now, you had a long career with the company over many, many years. How different has it been taking over SPC Ardmona and this iconic brand, this quite unique operation?
Yes, it's quite an honour. Coca-Cola Amatil, of course, are a very proud Australian company themselves, all based here, an Australian board, and they bought SPC some 8 or so years ago. And I must say the board's been very patient, and they want a big success here. They want to stay manufacturing food products in Australia, and I'm quite passionate about that as well. I guess a big difference from our regular business, having the Coke franchise in Australia, of course, is that here we're very closely linked with the region and the growers and the town, because we are the employer, the biggest employer in that town, and we have a very close relationship with the growers. So it has a bigger emotional pull on me. Particular.
Yeah, I've seen some interviews with you, and that really does seem to come through as someone who's had, a really successful high-flying career, going into a regional area and dealing with the growers and seeing how you can put your skills to work to get their products being bought by those of us in the city.
Yes, that's right. I hope whilst I'm not an expert in the agricultural industry, I'm in love with the concept of my kids being able to still eat Australian food in the years to come, and so I'm trying to apply the other skills I've developed over the time with CCA to get some wins and to deal with the government bureaucracy. We haven't, we're not as good, I think, as an industry at lobbying and getting the story out there. So applying some of those marketing skills a little bit to this business, doing my best to try to help turn this thing around, because it's really important that we do.
And we have seen in recent times this very extensive campaign for SPC Ardmona and for the products, and urging us all to examine them, look at the fact that they are made and grown in Australia. To what extent do people buy on that basis? You want your kids to buy the stuff, and to what extent is it like at my place, where in fact we found something that costs a little bit more, but we thought it was pretty good? I mean, how much is it the quality as opposed to the patriotism?
I think the quality is super important, John. For our growers, they all have to pass environmental standards to make sure they're using the right chemicals, the right fertilisers, nothing that's been banned in Australia. They have to make sure they've got the right environmental processes on their farm so it's sustainable. In our factories, we have to have safe working conditions for our employees. We have to meet food standards for the Australian food standards. We get audited and checked. It costs money to do all those things, to pay people fair wages, all that sort of stuff. But it's a moral imperative that we do those things for the future. Now, products from overseas, they don't have to pass all those tests. And we've seen many, many examples, I don't need to tell you about them, where developing countries in particular fail those tests miserably. And I ask the question of the government, who is checking?
Yeah.
Who's checking that? And if we were to get to a position where nothing was grown in Australia, that'd be a tragedy, because you can mount arguments about car industries and other things, but gee, we can't feed ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is the whole point. This is what we say. We look at, for instance, you say the deal you did with Woolworths. I see here you were saying 50,000 fruit trees a year in the Goulburn Valley had to have been destroyed. So the deal previously, I think, was being done with someone from South Africa and other parts of the world, so they can grow stuff without any regulation, without any real test of how they're doing it, what's in it, and then they can put it into a crate and get it out here. And in many cases, and this is complex law, there's dumping and there's safeguard rules that you've been trying to get through the Productivity Commission.
Yeah, let me tell you about that a little bit, John. So, two things. Obviously, you're not allowed to dump product in the country. That's just a straight no-no. Just
explain dumping to us, that term we hear.
If you export from your home country and sell into a target country at a margin that's less than you accept in your home country, that's dumping.
Yep.
Then what happens is it used to be the Customs Department, but it moves around, but the Anti-Dumping Commissioner has to work out, is there damage being done by that activity? And then they put a penalty on, enough that they think will stop it. So they're trying to influence the price to put it up to where it should have been if they weren't doing this illegal activity. I'll come up to some important news on this in a moment, but that's dumping. And Safeguard says no industry deserves to be wiped out by an anomaly that causes a rush of imports, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it says. And so my argument has been, the Australian dollar appreciating 50% in a couple of years because other countries are defending their currencies by printing money, or because Australia's become a reserve currency of some other places and there's a shortage of Australian dollars out there. That's not free trade. That's people protecting their countries.
Yes, yes.
And, of course, that means that the exporter may not have to improve their price in the Chinese currency, but when you buy it from Australia, if a retailer wanted to buy it, or a government department wanted to buy it, it's super cheap all of a sudden. It got 50% cheaper because the currency appreciated. Now, the Reserve Bank governor says that's an anomaly. That's a 1 in 100-year event. And so why should our industry be wiped out because of that? And once these trees are gone and this region's gone, it's not coming back.
Yeah.
So that's what Safeguards is supposed to be about. I must say I'm struggling to get that point across to the...
so you've gone to the Productivity Commission to talk about safeguard measures and what you've just described, and that was denied.
Yeah, with some very poor analysis in my view, John. They really, for example, they missed out on counting Aldi volumes in private label, and Aldi volumes is equal to the sum in fruit, at least. Private label equal to the sum of Coles and Woolies combined. And they just ignored it. Or they took the South African Growers Association opinion about SPC's capacity and strategies and ignored my evidence, which is just bizarre.
Yeah.
So we're not going to cop that. So we got on the front foot and pointed out all those inadequacies and hopefully we'll see some justice done.
Yeah, that happened a month ago, so you're doing that, so you've got some appeal review, have you?
Yeah, well, on Monday, Monday of this week, actually, we went back to the Commission, and the transcripts are out now, and you can see that we raised some very important points. Yep. They released our confidential information without a permission, so competitors got to see details that were confidential. They made various, a large number of errors in their analysis. But here's some news from right now. I just got a notice from the Anti-Dumping Commissioner.
Right.
And they've just put they've just said that they believe that there is a case to answer for dumping, and the Commission is satisfied that tomatoes have been imported from Italy and they're causing material injury to the Australian industry. And they've put a tariff on them immediately.
Okay, as of immediately, that's very good news, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but here's the problem, isn't it? You've got one commissioner for anti-dumping say, yes, there is damage, and in fact it's a breach of the rules, the trading rules, they're being dumped, and we're going to put this preliminary decision down today so that something gets done.
Yep.
And the other commissioner saying there is no injury from imported products. Go figure. How's that?
Well, so we've got a change of government now, and people who've talked about some of these issues in very strong terms. Is there anyone you see as a bit of a champion for you in the government?
Look, we've right throughout, the ministers keep changing. So we got a really good hearing from people like Greg Combay and Kim Carr, and of course the change of government had to happen after the election. So we've been in with Ian McFarlane. Right. I must say he gave us a fair hearing, I thought, and he seems to be concerned, and I get the feeling he wants to do something. So I've got to give him fair time to get into his job and get out there and do something. But if we get a bit of a help to recover from the damage that's been done from this unfair trading period, we have the resources and the skill and the innovation to make this work and boom again. We've been going for 95 years. So
exactly. And you have a look at the website. It's a phenomenal operation down there in the Goulburn Valley. So just a final one. We've seen the advertising and the marketing, so there's been an investment in that now, and that's what you do. Is there any tangible result of that you can see?
Yeah, I think so. We changed the labels on our products to make sure that people knew we were 100% grown in Australia and made in Australia, and we put that on the front of the label, big type, so that you didn't have to have your glasses on to read it was coming from Swaziland or somewhere else.
Yes.
And I can see that having a big impact, and we've got a lot of retailer support. Coles, Woolies and Aldi have now given us a lot more support, which is great. What I really would love is to be able to sell our Australian food to our own government departments. You'd be surprised to hear that the health departments, the jails, our own defence force, they don't have a preference for Australian products, and we do very poorly in those channels.
Well, that's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It's a no-brainer, mate. But I'm struggling to get through. Like a bit of yes minister, we get a bit of yes minister out there. They're given instruction to buy the cheapest stuff, and that's just not right. Because all the reasons we've said. So we could save a lot of those trees. I think another 200,000 trees will be destroyed before next season begins, and those trees could be saved.
200,000?
Yeah, if we got immediate action from some state and federal government departments.
And you've got to say to some of those suppliers around there, listen, I can't help you at the moment. That must be hard.
CCA's been wearing the brunt of this. We wrote off $200 million worth of inventory that we bought and packed, but we couldn't sell. Yeah. And if we weren't backed by CCA, we'd be gone already.
I've seen that. All right, well, are you based down there?
Yeah, well, I have an office one in Melbourne and one in Shepparton, and I do the rounds, and I'm spending a lot of time in Canberra, as you'd imagine. Yeah,
I can imagine. Listen, I wouldn't mind bookmarking this and talking down the track to see how you go with this, because I think it's a very important fight. I'm very interested in what you're doing, because it's really important for all of us. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks, John.
Peter Kelly, he's the Managing Director of SPC Ardmona. They're owned by Coca-Cola Amatil. He's somebody who's had that very long career in Coca-Cola Amatil, who's now taken hold of this iconic outfit, and you just heard him talk there. Very passionate about it, and I think it's really important for all of us that he has some success. There is that news, as you heard, hot off the presses in relation to the tariffs on tomatoes from Italy. But for all of us, when we're in the supermarket next time, we talk about supermarket aisles and all of that, we'll just go and find the SPC stuff, and you know exactly what you are getting. It is 15 and a half to 12. Tom Petrosky joins us now from ComSec at the end of the week. Hello, Tom.
Good morning, John.